this is all about the insider action outside the game.
Well, taping another team's signals or practice or, that's against the rules. Why would they do that? That also seems small.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com. And today, we're counting down our picks for the top 10 sports scandals.
Sports Illustrated says it's uncovered Almonte's real birth certificate. It shows Almonte was born on April 7th, 1987.
For this list, we're focusing on scandals in the sports world that contain elements of planning, concealing, or even conspiracy.
There was only one club in the league could fit him in the salary cap. It was the Melbourne Storm.
And we're excluding random acts or behaviors that reflect poorly on only one individual. Number 10, NFL concussions.
Tells the whole story when you hear the sound of it on this punt return.
For years, it was a badge of honor for ex-NFL players to boast about the violent nature of their sport. But the narrative took a dark turn once retired athletes began experiencing symptoms of CTE, or chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
The football world has been rocked this week by the sad death of a former star.
In 2011, Dave Duerson took his own life and requested that his brain be studied for trauma. And just 1 year later, Junior Seau also committed suicide and was confirmed to be suffering from CTE after a post-mortem examination. The NFL continues to adopt new regulations along with the NHL and their enforcer issue. But off-the-field problems, including domestic violence, as evidenced by the Ray Rice case, continue to fuel the fire.
Junior Seau died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Some speculated that he did so to preserve his brain. A brain, it turns out, that was damaged by the game he loved.
Number 9, Deflategate.
However, there is an elephant in the room.
Where?
Regardless of whether you're pro Tom Brady or a steadfast hater, Deflategate undoubtedly caused a storm of selective outrage in 2015.
After this came out, there were a bunch of quarterbacks who said, yeah, we all did this. Yes, it was against the rules, but this is something we all did.
It all began during the AFC Championship game when officials discovered that official game balls had been deflated, thus allowing Brady to get the upper hand.
And this did not come out of thin air, pardon the pun. This did not come out of the NFL's own theory about the balls. It came from the Colts. It came from perhaps other teams.
2 weeks later, the New England Patriots won another Super Bowl. And shortly after, the Wells report concluded it was, quote, probable that Brady was complicit.
I don't have really any reaction to our owner commented on it yesterday.
Deflategate came over 7 years after another New England Patriots controversy known as Spygate, which means that somebody has some explaining to do, whomever that may be.
Is the Super Bowl tainted? Should there be an asterisk?
What do you guys think?
Number 8, Jerry Sandusky and Penn State.
These allegations are false. I didn't do those things.
After 61 years with Penn State, you could say that Joe Paterno had a bit of clout on campus.
We drove 2 hours to get here just for this, just to say goodbye.
But amid a disturbing sexual abuse scandal involving former assistant coach Jerry Sandusky, Paterno's legacy was forever tarnished, and he passed away just 2 months after being fired. If you know the details, then you already know just how heartbreaking this story is for all involved.
Aaron Fisher was the first to accuse Sandusky of being a monster.
In fact, when Sandusky was convicted, the judge intentionally avoided an abstract sentence to reinforce the idea that 30 to 60 years in jail had, quote, the unmistakable impact of saying, clearly, for the rest of your life.
A community pillar who founded a charity to work with at-risk kids. A position prosecutors now say Sandusky used as a hunting ground for vulnerable victims.
Number 7, the Melbourne Storm salary cap breach.
They're jumping for joy, Melbourne!
We had some rats in our ranks. Those were the words of Melbourne Storm owner John Hartigan after his team was involved in the biggest scandal in Australian sports history.
Over the last few weeks, it's come to light that the Storm has engaged in a long-term system of operating what might conveniently be called 2 sets of books.
The rugby squad had won premierships both in 2007 and in 2009. And let's just say that a few perks were offered beyond the usual contract negotiations.
This club is a great club. It's a strong club. It's a very proud club.
Some players were given under-the-table benefits that doubled their official contracts, and others received 30 large for home and entertainment expenses.
The secret files outlining the under-the-table deals were kept in a separate room at the Storm's headquarters, well away from the players' legitimate contracts.
In the end, Melbourne continued to win, but only after the largest sanctions in league history and a stripping of their titles.
The penalty will be the stripping of 3 minor premierships and 2 premierships, the return of $1.1 million in prize money, a fine of $500,000.
Number 6. Tim Donaghy and the 2007 NBA betting scandal.
His father had been a respected ref in college basketball. Tim followed in his footsteps and went even further, making it to the NBA. But Tim said betting was more powerful than all of that.
We all know somebody who thinks the NBA is rigged, and after former basketball referee Tim Donaghy was convicted of fixing games, the conspiracy theorists snickered with laughter.
And did betting on the NBA give you a higher high than betting on other sports?
I think it gave me a higher high because I was able to predict the outcome of the games.
From 2005 to 2007, Donaghy bet thousands of dollars on games he personally officiated, and later received kickbacks from low-level mafia figures. Oh yeah, he also worked the infamous 2004 Indiana-Detroit game that resulted in one of the darkest moments in league history, also known as the Malice in the Palace. Donaghy was one sketchy ref, and after serving 11 months in prison, he naturally wrote a book about his experiences.
Making winning picks is what excites you.
Number 5. Lance Armstrong doping allegations.
There is a time gap, but the man in yellow is running at him with that usual determination.
He was the golden boy of cycling, at least until he began throwing everyone under his wheels.
Is there any stopping Lance Armstrong in this Tour de France? And the answer is no, there is not.
In one of the most astonishing cases of egocentric behavior the sports world has ever seen, Lance Armstrong furiously denied using performance-enhancing drugs after winning the Tour de France from 1999 to 2005.
There's 280 pages of medical records. Constant interactions with doctors and nurses and specialists, never once mentioned.
It was hard to root against Armstrong, a survivor of testicular cancer and founder of the Livestrong Foundation. But the growing amount of evidence became too much to ignore.
I told her to go wherever she wants, her meaning me, and I'll answer the questions directly, honestly, and candidly.
Armstrong ultimately confessed to Oprah, and even that seemed like yet another performance.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
Number 4. The 2002 Winter Olympic bid scandal.
There are allegations the city won the Winter Games for the year 2002 by bribing some members of the International Olympic Committee.
Every 4 years, the Winter Olympics showcase the greatest athletes in the world. And it's also a time for corrupt benefactors to admire their illegal purchases.
Unseemly things had happened, but we never had the facts. No one had the courage to say, well, here's the ledger, here's what happened. And now we do.
In 1995, Salt Lake City was selected to host the 2002 Games. And 3 years later, the Salt Lake City Organizing Committee was suspiciously protective of their financial documents when pressed by reporters.
As an athlete, you're training your whole life for that one moment at the Olympics.
But America's Winter Olympics were mired in scandal and deficits.
It was almost like they didn't want people to know that numerous members of the International Olympic Committee were given political contributions, tuition money, and millions upon millions of dollars.
Accusations that Salt Lake City had bribed some IOC members with cash, gifts, possibly even the services of prostitutes, so it could get the 2002 Games.
You broke our heart, Utah, just like that French judge who sabotaged the 2002 pairs figure skating competition.
How did that happen? They won that program. There's not a doubt anyone in the place except for maybe a few judges.
Number 3. The Black Sox Scandal.
Shoeless Joe Jackson, one of baseball's all-time greats.
Any true baseball fan knows the name Shoeless Joe Jackson.
But the Black Sox scandal ends his career.
He was the centerpiece of the 1919 Black Sox scandal, where players were accused of throwing the World Series and banned from baseball for life. Of course, Shoeless Joe was also a central figure in the 1989 film Field of Dreams.
Getting thrown out of baseball was like having part of me amputated.
What most people don't realize, unfortunately, is that he most likely wasn't involved in the scandal at all. And the available evidence supports such a conclusion. Even so, the fact remains that America's favorite pastime was undoubtedly fixed. And a classic phrase was born. Say it ain't so, Joe.
Shoeless Joe Jackson died in 1951, and 63 years later is still banned from baseball.
Number 2, the MLB Steroids Scandal.
There it is.
For nearly 40 years, an unassuming man named Roger Maris held the Major League Baseball single-season home run record. But in the mid-90s, a new trend emerged: juicing.
Some thought the ball itself was juiced, and that's why more and more people were coming to the ballpark, but home run numbers were just skyrocketing.
However, most fans didn't fully realize the extent of the steroid problem.
They really were like cartoon figures, like Supermen with these bulging biceps, and they just sucked us in.
Mark McGwire hit 70 homers in '98, and 3 years later, Barry Bonds set the existing, quote, record with 73.
There's a high drive, deep into right center field, to the big part of the ballpark, number 71!
It was indeed an exciting time. But when the Mitchell Report was released in 2007, the game was tarnished forever.
Steroids don't really help you that much physically, and what they give you can take away somewhere else, and I don't want that.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are a few honorable, or in this case, dishonorable mentions.
No signals up. These 3 are definitely happening. Okay? They're all being organised. Okay. So the first ball of the third over of the innings. Yeah.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior.
Dass die Pokalpartie des HSV Teil des unglaublichen Wettskandals ist. Zu spät für den HSV.
To go out there and to have in your mind, you want to take somebody's career out. I mean, you got to look at it as, people are trying to feed their family.
However, the Spanish have a secret advantage. 10 out of the 12 of them are perfectly normal, putting it on in the hope of winning gold.
Number 1, the 2015 FIFA corruption case.
We are here to announce the unsealing of charges and the arrests of individuals as part of our long-running investigation into bribery and corruption in the world of organized soccer.
All hell broke loose in May of 2015 when U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch unveiled an intricate bribing scheme involving FIFA executives and corrupt officials.
They did this over and over.
In fact, FIFA VP Jack Warner even tried to defend himself by citing a satirical news article by The Onion.
If the FIFA is so bad, why is it the USA wants to keep the FIFA World Cup?
As we've seen with the 2002 Winter Olympics, any event can be bought. And while this scandal may not come as a big surprise to skeptics, the grand scale of the entire cover-up is simply astounding. We are truly living in a world of magnificent bastards.
His criminal activity financed an opulent lifestyle that included a luxury apartment in New York's Trump Tower for the use of his cats.
Wow!
Do you agree with our list?
I did. I was like, okay, well, yeah, I could see how they would have won.
What do you think is the most memorable sports scandal?
In my mind, it wasn't inappropriate behavior.
For more mind-blowing top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
And we will look forward to following you here online.